Well, again, welcome everyone. So glad you are here. For those of you that I have not had the pleasure of meeting, I am Karen Rice. I'm the Senior Program Manager of Education Initiatives at Schoolhouse Connection. And I'm joined by some fantastic panelists that I will introduce to you when they are ready to share, but just want to welcome you to our webinar on ensuring food resources and access to food resources for students experiencing homelessness. So this webinar will be recorded, and we do invite you to drop your questions into the Q&A box or into the chat. Either is fine. And at the follow-up to our webinar, we will send out a copy of the PowerPoint and the recording. And of course, that will be archived on our website as well. For those of you who are not familiar with Schoolhouse Connection, we are a national nonprofit that works to support overcoming homelessness through education. And we kind of have a three parts to our organization. So we work with state and federal policy advocacy. So advocating for policies to support students and families experiencing homelessness. We work across early childhood to higher education in K-12, providing technical assistance on implementing McKinney-Vento. And we also have a scholarship program. And our scholarship program is really unique in that we also provide, in addition to that financial resource, we provide case management for students who are transitioning into higher ed, case management through their entire higher ed process, and then as well once they kind of exit that. So it's really unique and wonderful, and our scholarship application is actually going to be released very soon. So we are excited, keep your eyes open for that. We are excited to have another round of scholars coming in to join our Schoolhouse family. Just going to check the chat. It looks like there's a few questions. Thank you so much, everybody, for introducing yourself. That is wonderful. It's great to see where you all are from. So please continue to drop those in the chat as well. So we're going to start by just talking through an overview of homelessness and food insecurity. And we'll kind of set the stage and provide some context for our presentation today. And then I will turn it over to the Food Research Action Center to talk about summer nutrition and EBT benefits. And then as well, we have a liaison, Christi DeChamps from the Appleton Area School District, who will talk about some best practices and strategies for us today. All right, so let's start by having some context around kind of this idea of food insecurity and what that means. So this information is from the US Department of Agriculture. And so they name in 2021 that 10.2% of families were experiencing food insecurity. And so of that, they kind of categorize that into two different areas, talking about families with low food security and very low food security. And the difference in that is families who or students who are experiencing low food insecurity often have to make decisions about what they're able to eat. They might not have the same variety of foods, things like that. And families and students with very low food insecurity are really lacking that food. And so you can see that households with very low food security is about 3.8% of that, again, in the 2021 year. So thinking through how this intersects with our students experiencing homelessness, we know that our families experiencing homelessness face higher barriers, more barriers to accessing food due to high mobility, moving around a lot, maybe not accessing food resources that are available because of that high mobility, or maybe not having the transportation to access those food resources. And so it's really critical that we work with them to make sure that they're identified under McKinney-Vento so that they can access those food resources at school. So the National School Lunch Act is what automatically or categorically makes students eligible for receiving free school meals at school. So this includes lunch and breakfast. And they don't have to complete a free and reduced lunch application. And that's really kind of key in thinking through removing one of the barriers for our students and families experiencing homelessness is that we don't need to wait for that application to be completed and then processed. So once a student is identified under McKinney-Vento, they're automatically eligible to receive those free school meals, and that can begin immediately. So once a student has been identified and is receiving those free school meals, that lasts for the duration of that school year. And then the unique thing about this is that it starts out the next school year as well. And so 30 days into the new school year, the student will continue to be eligible for free school meals, or if the student is eligible again under McKinney-Vento or completes that application, they're continued to be eligible for that school year. So it gives them about a 30-day window to either be re-identified under McKinney-Vento or to complete an application if they are in permanent housing and still receive those free school meals during that 30 days. sorry about that. One more thing I want to mention is that liaisons in schools and shelter directors are able to provide that information to their school nutrition services to make sure that students are able to receive those free school meals. And one of the questions that we frequently receive at Schoolhouse Connection is, can that be done via email, or is there a larger process to notify school nutrition services? And so I do want to say that it is very common and very typical that a homeless liaison, once they've identified a student under McKinney-Vento, will send an email to their school nutrition staff. And that's the catalyst to get those free school meals started. So there's not a more lengthy process that liaisons need to go through to ensure that those meals begin right away. So that's a little bit about kind of that intersection again between food insecurity and students experiencing homelessness. So we're going to jump right into the good stuff and to learn about those summer EBT benefits and school nutrition, and then hear some of those best practices. So I would like to first introduce you to Kelsey Boone from the Food Research and Action Center. And Kelsey is going to join us and talk today about the EBT benefits.
Thanks, Karen. As she said, my name is Kelsey Boone, and I am a Senior Child Nutrition Policy Analyst with the Food Research and Action Center, or FRAC. Next slide. So FRAC is the, could you go back one? Apologies. So FRAC is the leading national nonprofit organization working to eradicate poverty-related hunger and undernutrition in the United States through research, through advocacy, and through trainings and technical assistance. Next slide. So here's just a layout of what I'm hoping to cover for you today. First, we'll go over pandemic EBT and what is available for children this summer in 2023. Then we'll turn to the new nationwide summer EBT program that will begin in summer of 2024. And then we'll touch on some best practices for reaching students facing homelessness within this program. And I'm going to wrap up with a brief discussion of other summer nutrition opportunities. Next slide. All right. So let's start with what the pandemic EBT program is. Pandemic EBT was created in March of 2020 to provide money on an EBT card to eligible families to replace school meals students were missing out on due to the pandemic. The program was eventually expanded to cover the summer months, and this summer, summer of 2023, is the final summer of the pandemic EBT program. Eligible students, and that means students who are directly certified through categorical eligibility, meaning they receive SNAP, TANF, in some states Medicaid, or who are facing homelessness, or foster students, as well as students who are certified for free reduced price meals outside of direct certification, whose states have been approved to distribute benefits for this summer, will receive $120 for the summer on an EBT card to purchase groceries during summer break. To find out if your state is one of those 34 approved states, you can visit the link in the slide when we do send out the slides. It is posted on the FNS website, and hopefully we can get all the rest of the states up soon. So next slide. So the pandemic EBT program has had a major impact on food insecurity throughout the pandemic. Over $53 billion has been distributed in benefits through this program to approximately 29 million eligible students. It has reduced the share of households that stated they sometimes or often did not have enough food by 28% in school year 2020-2021. And in states that distributed a significant amount of summer pandemic EBT benefits, food insecurity was greatly diminished. Next slide. So now that we've talked about summer of 2023, which is this summer, we're going to turn to the brand new entitlement program established in December of last year, the summer EBT program. So this program begins in the summer of 2024, so next summer, and will run each year after that. All states and territories, as well as tribal organizations that participate in the Women, Infants, and Children program, so WIC, can participate in this program. Next slide. So as far as the summer EBT program structure for next year, families will receive $40 a month per eligible child per summer period, and this amount will be adjusted based on inflation in 2024 and beyond. So it may be a little more next summer, and then it may increase subsequently based on inflation. All states have the option to all states will run the program under the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, so SNAP, or the Nutrition Assistance Program that runs in the territories. And then Indian tribal organizations will run the program under a WIC model. States must issue benefits using automatic issuance for eligible children and must provide an application for those who were not certified during the school year. So that means that any student who is deemed eligible during the school year will automatically receive benefits, and those who don't have a free reduced price meal application or are not directly certified will have to apply for the benefit. Next slide. Just to touch a little bit more on eligibility, in particular for students facing homelessness. For students identified as facing homelessness, all will be eligible under categorical eligibility and should not need to apply. They should receive the benefit automatically. Even in schools that are running Provision 2 or the community eligibility provision, those who are facing homelessness should not need to apply for the program. Others within that position may need to, but not for this population of students. Next slide. So next I'm going to delve into some of the best practices. So with states coming out of the pandemic EBT program, there are many lessons learned that inform best practices, particularly when it comes to best practices for benefit distribution. So we recommend that states work with McKinney-Vento District homeless liaisons to share information on summer EBT with the district's homeless families and youth. Those resources should include information on the program, how to update addresses, and how to get replacement cards if their card was sent to the wrong address. We should also be allowing McKinney-Vento District homeless liaisons to deliver summer EBT cards to students and families if an address is not readily available. Issuing summer EBT cards in the student's name to ensure unaccompanied youth have access to summer EBT benefits. This was an issue in pandemic EBT where at the beginning of the program, not all states were issuing in students' names. So we are hoping that that will be a major shift in the guidance, that it will be required to be issued in the students' names. Next, we have creating an easy way for families and youth to update address information or allow them to request that the card be delivered to the school district to ensure easy access for these students. And the last thing is to share information about the program with homeless youth via email, text, and social media in ways that they can access that. Next slide. Finally, I want to touch on one other opportunity for students to access nutritional resources during the summer months. The Summer Meals Program, which includes meals served through the Summer Food Service Program and the Seamless Summer Option. The Summer Meals programs are federally funded and state administered programs. Children 18 years and younger may receive up to 2 free meals a day through the Summer Food Service Program. And at certain cancer sites, they may be able to get up to 3, depending on where you are and what camp you're going to. To find your nearest service site, the easiest way is to text summer meals to the number on the screen, so 914-342-7744. Other ways you can access that or visit the link that is in the slides. So whenever the slides are sent out, that link will lead you to a summer meals finder, or you can call this number 1-866-348-6479. I know that's a lot of information that you probably can't remember right now, and that's totally fine. Again, whenever these slides go out, you'll have all that information to help find sites near you. Next slide. Just some benefits of the Summer Meals Program. So the Summer Meals Program ensures children receive the nutrition they need when the school year ends. They provide educational, enrichment, or recreational activities that keep children learning, active, and safe when school is not in session. And they also allow program providers to stretch their budgets and for sponsors to strengthen their overall operations by operating year-round. I'm more than happy to answer any of your summer meals or summer pandemic EBT, summer EBT questions.
See, one of the questions that we got in the question and answer box is, are these programs inclusive of mixed status immigrant families? I'm wondering if you can address that.
Yes, so with the summer EBT program is a continuation of the summer meals program. So this does not count under public charge. And just like with school meals programs, those immigrant families have access to those programs. And so, that's a continuation for the summer EBT program. Sorry about that.
All right, another question that came in the Q&A box. I'm only seeing 2 sites for Philadelphia. Is this accurate for summer 2023, or are there more sites to be added?
More sites will be added. This is early for the summer. Well, the summer meals programs usually start up in June. And I'm sure more sites will be added. A lot of schools probably don't have their information in either right now, and they are a large proportion of our summer meal sites. So I would expect that number to go up in the next few weeks.
And then do families have to apply, or will it automatically be sent out?
The benefits will be automatically sent out, especially if they are in that group of students that I described before: direct certification, students facing homelessness, foster students, SNAP households, TANF households, and in some states, Medicaid states.
And then another question for you, Kelsey. So sorry. How are states approved for summer 2023 P-EBT? Is there anything we can do to advocate for our state to be approved if it's not?
So states are approved for pandemic EBT by writing a plan and submitting it to USDA. Definitely there's things that you can do to advocate for your state to be approved. Most states that do submit a plan have been approved or will be approved. So most of those states have submitted a plan, or they are not planning on submitting a plan. And if they are not planning on submitting a plan, obviously it's a much bigger advocacy push. But getting together a coalition of a bunch of people who are interested in this, so parent-teacher associations, grocers associations, retailers, those types of groups will really help to strengthen your argument as to why this program is so important, because it brings together all of these different interest groups, and also it feeds kids. So it is definitely a big advocacy push, but it's one of the things we do. And if you are interested in getting involved in advocacy for it in your state, you can reach out to me. I think my email is here somewhere. If not, I can drop it in the chat. But yeah, that is probably the best way if you want to get involved.
Excellent. All right. Is there a list of states that have these programs versus ones that don't?
Yes, let me actually drop that link in the chat as well. Again, it will be linked in the slides, but just so everyone has it on hand, here is the link for the list on FNS's website. And this is as of, I think, the 17th, so that would have been last week.
Excellent. All right, another question. Are there flyers pre-made from FRAC for liaisons to utilize to disperse?
So we don't have any at this moment, but we are putting out some very soon in the next week or two. So just keep checking the FRAC website, frac.org/P-EBT. We have a communications toolkit and a communications resources shared drive where you can pull examples from other areas, other people on what is going on their flyers, and pull those and utilize those. So that's all on our website.
Excellent. All right. Where do we access or receive the information you want school districts and liaisons to send home to families?
So again, I mean, probably looking at some of the communications resources that we have. You know, all of the information on the program is available on both FRAC's website, USDA's website, FNS's website. Yeah, I would start by looking at those.
Sounds good. All right, 2 more questions, and then I think we will move on, and we can always come back at the end and answer more questions. This one says Michigan is not showing any sites, but there are several according to a food systems educator with MSU extension.
So again, I think that that's a USDA tool, and they are probably in the process of still updating it. I am hoping that that will be done very soon, especially since summer meals are really starting to ramp up. So that is definitely a flag for USDA that I can pass on for that.
Excellent. All right, there's one more question, but I think that might be specific to school meals. So Russell, it looks like you put this in the Q&A box. Do you notice happening in DC to restore free meals to all students as we had during the pandemic? So I missed that. To me, sounds like maybe that's free school meals that all students were receiving. But Russell, you can feel free to type in some additional information or context, and we can address that question for you as well.
And I can say really quickly that I do believe that DC is, at least our advocates in DC have started a Healthy School Meals for All campaign. So that is something that is active in DC, has not been voted on or passed yet, but that is, we are advocating for that in a bunch of states, including, I think, DC.
Excellent. All right, I think we've covered all of the questions for now. Please feel free to continue to type them as we go through. We can revisit them at the end, and we can bring any questions back to Kelsey at that time as well. But I will turn it over right now to Christi DeChamps. Christi is the McKinney-Vento liaison in the Appleton Area School District in Appleton, Wisconsin. And Christi is joining us today to talk about some best practices.
Thank you. I appreciate being able to be here today and share with everyone. So as Karen said, my name is Christi DeChamps. I'm a district-wide McKinney-Vento homeless liaison in my district. So Appleton is located kind of in the central state, part of our state here in Wisconsin. And I just listed my email address on here and also my website. I'll be talking a little bit more about the kind of information that I put on it. I just figured as a point of reference for anyone who hasn't been to Wisconsin, you can see where I'm located here. And then a bit of an overview. I know it's always helpful when I'm on webinars to kind of be able to frame whether or not my district is larger, smaller, similar. So the Appleton Area School District is the 6th largest school district in the state of Wisconsin. We have a total enrollment of a little bit over 15,000 students. Our area is really a suburban community. So we have about 74,000 total population in our area. And the school district has a variety of different age levels of programming, all the way from early childhood, birth to 5 outreach, up through our high school age. So there's really, if you're moving around and experiencing homelessness in our area or even in our local area, you're sometimes even in other school districts that are still in what we call kind of our region. So there is a lot of movement in and around kind of neighborhood school areas for our districts. And just for this school year, I've identified about 500 students in my district as experiencing homelessness. The last 4 years that I've been in this school district role, we are up. My first year doing this was about 300 students. So we're seeing an increase in our area. And just some of the trends that we've seen, which I think are probably similar to across our state and probably across the nation, is there's really a crisis in the lack of affordable housing options. I've seen a lot of increase in non-renewals of leases. So in addition to families getting evicted, there's families that have done, nothing to lose housing other than a landlord wants to sell the property or is asking them to leave, sometimes to turn it around and rent it at a higher price to new tenants. And there's also an increase of families that are residing in hotels. I would say that the numbers of families that are living in hotels have probably tripled for me over the past 4 years. Also have a lot of families that instead of being homeless and in a temporary situation that stays consistent, there's a lot of place to place moving around at one hotel, moving somewhere else. And there's also longer waiting lists to access our crisis housing and shelter options. So that may be similar to what you're seeing in your local areas. Just thought I'd kind of frame some of the things that I'm seeing as trends in my school district area. So some of the basic needs support that I do within my role, and I know that it was somewhat that may be similar or different than what you do in your district. I'm a district-wide position. So my full-time school social worker role is to support our students experiencing homelessness and also our kids in the foster care system. So I know that in other districts, if you're someone who does school-based school social work or school counseling, and then in addition, your part-time job role is what you do for the McKinney-Vento support. It might be different or it might be similar because I have a dedicated role. A lot of what I do is basic needs support for my homeless students, and then I also allow other site-based school social workers and school counselors to kind of tap into the resources that I organize. So we do obviously a lot of help with the school supplies, backpacks. We offer Wi-Fi hotspots. Our students in middle school and high school have one-to-one technology for doing homework. Homework on a school Chromebook is only as helpful as accessing the internet in order to do that homework. And so a lot of it is assessing what do they need to be able to do their work for school, even outside of school hours, and also that before and after school wraparound care. So even though it may not be directly impacting their school day education, it's those services that are needed for the family to be able to be ready and prepared for school and even those after school hours. So one of the things that we do in our district is a basic needs care package program. So I have a little picture on here of my care closet that I do. This is actually stocked because I participate in a community-wide event that does an annual hygiene supply collection. And because I'm on the planning committee and all of our school sites are collection sites, we're one of 20 agencies that get the supplies back. So all the donated hygiene supplies come back to the district, but I'm not using district money to be able to stock my care closet. I've tapped into community resources for that. So I'm able to give families things like bath and shower products, toilet paper, laundry detergent, soaps. I also have different agencies I work with in the community that will do gift cards and vouchers for things like clothing, furniture, if someone moves into housing, referrals to be able to shop at the community clothes closet at no cost up here, but you do need an agency referral. And even we have a local laundromat that we are able to use donated funds to purchase vouchers for families to be able to do their laundry. So in addition to a lot of that basic needs care package support, I wanted to focus more on specifically what I do in my district and give examples of what I do for food support for my McKinney-Vento supported families. So one of the things that's new this year that I was really excited to do is we have this cute little cabinet right outside my school district office. I have a lot of families that are stopping in to pick up their gas cards for school transportation, or they're just coming in because they need to pick up resources or a care package of hygiene items. I have what I call the free little pantry. So with a partnership with our local food pantry, they supply the food that we then put in this little cabinet. And we have little plastic grocery bags outside there. So if a family's stopping by to pick up laundry detergent and their gas cards to drive their kids to school, they can grab food items that they might be in need of. And that's just stacked right outside my office door. And then the other thing that I do is I have a lot of churches and community groups that often will reach out to me and ask, what do you need? What can we help with? And so one of the things that I found was that even with the donations from our local food pantry, we still had families that kind of had very specific needs, like pasta and Prego sauce is only so helpful as if you have a stove to make it. So what I asked one of our local churches to do is to prepare gallon Ziploc baggies that are filled with things that you can make in a hotel microwave. So it's the microwavable mac and cheese cups, it's the granola bars, the fruit cups that you just need to open up, different easy, the little meat sticks, nothing that needs refrigeration, stuff that if a family tells me, I ran out of money on my food share card, or I lost my card and I'm applying for a new one, but I don't have it yet, and I don't know how we're going to eat for the next couple days. So if there's an immediate need and they can't get to one of our local food pantries, I can hand them a bag. And I found that a lot of the local community groups and churches really like hands-on projects. And so sometimes it's just giving them the idea. They may be less interested in purchasing a grocery store gift card, but they're more than happy to actually go out shopping at the big stores and get, the bulk order mac and cheese cups and put it in a bag. And it's a really nice way to hand it to families who are really struggling in the moment and don't have an immediate solution. Another really fun thing that actually one of our school social workers did with a student service club is we do this ready to go. It's a 1-ingredient cake project thing. So we have like the little pans that you can make the cake in. You put a cake box, this can of soda, in case no one knows this little secret, is you don't need any of the wet ingredients in the cake. You literally add a can of soda to a box mix of cake, mix it together, nothing else, put it in the pan, and we put frosting and birthday candles are in there. So it's literally ready to go. All you would need is an oven to be able to do it. I have actually found that a really fun way to give these out, in addition to families that want to be able to do regular fun life activities. But when you're homeless and you're experiencing poverty, you don't always have the means to go out and buy the luxuries like frosting and cake box mixes. And another thing is I give one of these to my families when they move into stable housing. And I've had parents who are moved to tears about the fact that I can give them a hygiene supply, grocery bags to take to their new residence, a referral for furniture, and here's the cake you can make with your kids to celebrate finally getting into housing. So although it may not be an absolute necessity, it's a really nice way to give maybe some kid service project group ideas, or to be able to just have this to give to families. I've just had a lot of appreciation expressed from kids and families when I've given them these. So one of the things that I did, which actually was kind of born out of the pandemic, which was actually my first year in my school district in my role as the homeless liaison, was the year that the COVID pandemic hit and schools shut down. And all of my resources that I was used to handing families or sending over interoffice mail to the school, I wasn't able to do that anymore. And although we did have a school district website that explained McKinney-Vento and what our school district did to support families, it was more of a definition of our services and support. It wasn't really a go-to user-friendly support for families. And so what I did is I enhanced my website to still have all of the required things that we need, but to also then on the bottom, which is kind of over on the left-hand side here, this is resource tabs that I have at the bottom. And I worked with our IT department in the school district, and I said, I have resources for housing, I have resources for food. There's other ones that are for, crisis lines, how to avoid an eviction when there was the federal eviction moratorium. I wanted it organized on here so that families could use this website as a place to go, and they didn't have to come see me in person to have access to the resources. So I was able to look into what was available out in the community or at our state level, and I was able to put it right on the website. So the example over here on the left is what I put on our food website, or the food tab, where there's a food pantry locator. There's different links to our local food pantries. There's a link to our summer food service program in our school district. And I also, I previously had a brochure that I would provide families about my services and support with McKinney-Vento. And then I actually made it into a flyer, and our really cool IT department, my school district, made me a QR code. So now I feel really modern. But what's nice about that is that families can literally hover with their cell phone over the QR code, and it links right to the website, and then they can see all those resources. So another thing that I did was I took the time to kind of research what was going on in our community. Again, part of this was due to the pandemic. We have a lot of community agencies like United Way and 211 that are really great resource hubs. But when the pandemic and the safer at home orders that were in our state happened, everything changed. Hours changed, how you could access it. Did you need an appointment? Could you show up? Did you have to show up only on certain days? So the resource guide I did started off as a way for me to research what was happening in the community, how were our food pantries working, and then putting that information into a resource guide that is, the reason it has the links on it is because I can email it out as an attachment. It has live links that someone, if they're opening it up on an email attachment, will take you to the website. But I also wanted it to be user-friendly enough that if I printed it out and then put it in the folder, which is the other picture on here, with all the printed paper, I also want families to have access to things at their fingertips. Some families are really tech savvy. Other ones just, they want a folder with the stuff in it. The folder I provide, half of it is community resources, basics needs type information. And then half of the folder is about housing resources such as landlord lists, how to get rent assistance, what programs were available, which obviously a lot of those change over time. We had some that were COVID funding related, other ones that are local to your communities. So I put together a folder that when I newly identify a student as McKinney-Vento, I'll send this folder over to the parents at their child's school, or I'll hand it to them when they're in my office in person meeting with me. So another thing that I have always felt very passionate about in my career as a social worker is linking to community resources. I know that a lot of us often are the ones that are providing the direct practice support, and we're the ones, you know, giving out the food bag or getting the hygiene supplies together. And I think that it's such and a wonderful opportunity to teach families how to access what may be already available in your community. They sometimes just don't know what it is, or they don't know how those services work. And so a lot of what I spend my time on is researching our local resources and programs, and then supplying a family with the information that they need for that information to be helpful. They may have heard about a Ruby's Pantry, but they may not know that it only happens on the first Tuesday of the month, and it's a drive-up service and you don't have to pre-register. So if a program has a brochure, I call them up, I ask them for a brochure, I stick it in my resource folder, I'll send it home with different mailings, or if I'm sending out, I do guest cards every 2 weeks for my families who are driving their own children to and from their school of origin. So if it's ever like the week before I know the drive up food pantry is happening, I'll, you know, print extra flyers, pop it in the envelope that's going home. And on the right-hand side here, these are just examples of what I put in the resource guide. So letting parents know the address, the phone number, what type of style is it for a food pantry? Do you drive up? Do you need to pre-register? Do you need to be referred as a client? One of these is a library that just happens to have a shelf in the library for anyone in the community to walk in, grab what you need, and go. There's no need to talk to anyone. There's no need to pre-register. It's available every day of the week. And this really helps families to be able to know how to access those resources. What are their needs? Are they immediate? Are they something they can plan for and just know that they need to borrow someone's car to get to the food pantry to pick up the items that they need? So I try and imagine, if I'm on the other side of receiving this information, what do I need to know that doesn't feel overwhelming, but allows me to know exactly what's going to help me in the best way possible as a parent who maybe doesn't have the resources financially to find food or get food for my family. And linking into school resources and support programs, our district has so many supports that we make parents aware of, we communicate out about, and sometimes it's hidden on our websites. And so even though it might be something that we internally know as a school district we're offering, I also reshare that information with my McKinney-Vento families. And so I look at what do we have universally available to any of our students who might be experiencing poverty or a financial hardship or just food insecurity because they have a single parent who is trying to make ends meet but really stretching the finances thin. And so knowing what the universal supports are within the district really is another way for me to tap into providing that information to my McKinney-Vento families. So every Usually about in May of every year, we have information that comes out in our district about our summer food service program that will go into effect when school is over in June. And so I will put that link on my website. I will print out a little flyer and make sure I get it home to families so that they're aware of it. And that they know how it works, that it's for any of their children, including those non-school age kids, and that they don't need to go to their child's school site. They can show up at any school in our neighborhood and be able to access summer meal programs. We also have one of our food pantries in our local area that does a backpack food assistance program. So this again is a universal support that's available for schools to tap into, where once a week our school social workers or school counselors can go and pick up a specified number that they indicate. I need 40 bags. It's like lunch bag size, prepackaged like snacks, and not really full meals, but it's enough of some snacks to get you through the weekend, to get you through in between that time that you're not getting your free meals at school. And that you need to have stuff that you might not have in stock at home or a parent isn't able to provide. So because this is available to any of our students who might just have low income or food instability, when I email out about my newly qualified McKinney-Vento students, I request that all my school site school social workers add them onto the food backpack list. The only families that are typically not in need of this when they're experiencing homelessness would be our families in shelter, because our shelters in our area provide all the meals for students. So over the weekend, they'll serve them lunch. During the school week, lunch is expected for school-age kids to be at school. But tapping into those programs, making sure that all of the schools in our district were participating. We kind of had a partial participation. And a couple of years ago, I kind of did a push across the district to make sure that every one of our schools was offering this, so that regardless of what elementary school you went to, there was a food backpack program. We have actually now partnered at an even more supportive level in our district. We have a community engagement coordinator that organized that the pickup of all the St. Joe's food bags don't have to be done by individual staff. We actually have it picked up by our facilities department for the school district, who spent an entire Friday then driving it around to all of our school buildings, so that we're not asking our school staff to be out of the building going and picking that up. So we've actually enhanced kind of the flow and the process of the program to make sure we're offering that to as many kids in need as possible. And another thing that I started using a lot more during the pandemic and the school shutdown is the use of texting technology. I am very grateful that my school district provided me with a district cell phone that has texting technology. So if any of you are trying to advocate for this for yourselves, you can use this maybe as a little board to hop off of. But what you can do if you have an iPhone is you can pre-create a whole lot of messages that all you have to do is click on it and share it. I had a lot of families calling me up and saying, I'm out of food. I don't have enough food share benefits to get me through to the next time I can go shopping, or I lost my card and I'm waiting for the replacement. And so rather than having to type up a whole new message, I can go into my saved text note messages on my phone. I can pull up my one that says food resources. I click on the little box with the arrow on the top for sharing. And then over on that far right-hand side is what it looks like when it gets to the family. So right on their cell phone, they can look and see the name of what I'm sending them, a website they can link onto. I try and kind of put the information about, the hours and the how is it useful to you, so that families can kind of see, oh, this one's not till next week, Wednesday, but this one has a meal program every night during the week. So this is what my family needs right now. So really using that texting has been a really nice way. Families have been super responsive to the fact that I can share this information. I also then can share this with staff who might be calling about a non-McKinney-Vento, non-homeless family, but they're just like, hey, what food resources do we have? And I can share this out on a text message to them, or I can, it's the same information they have in my resource guide, so then I can even email that out to them. But the texting has really been something that I think families have appreciated the most about sharing of resources. The other thing that I have found really helpful is becoming familiar with the federal, state, and county resources. So really it's looking, I know that a lot of people in my district come to me for kind of the go-to of all the resources because they know that I'm looking for these resources for my McKinney-Vento families, but they may be working with other families who don't fall under McKinney-Vento homeless eligibility, but are really still in need of this information. I get a lot of questions about pandemic EBT benefits, even when it doesn't have to do with my homeless students. So what I try and do is have either links on my website or I kind of self-educate myself. Schoolhouse Connections is one of my favorite places. I learned about lots of stuff during the pandemic about what is available. So knowing about those pandemic EBT benefits, knowing about what counties overlap in your school district, how does it work when someone goes to economic support, which is what we refer to it as in our area in Wisconsin, what's available, who's eligible, how to apply, like the time sensitive changes, such as the new in our state, we have a new thing where Badger Care health insurance is going to be up for renewal and it hasn't had to be renewed for the past couple years. So those big changes that impact families that are McKinney-Vento supported families, I can't always be the one to do all the direct practice for 500 families. And so I like to tap into my community agencies. So we have a health center up here in my area called Partnership for Community Health Center. And they actually have an enrollment center that will help families apply for their health care, for food share, for childcare assistance. And so knowing that those agencies help, I can direct a family and give them that information so that I don't have to be the one sitting down in my office filling out the application with them, but I can link them into the agency that can help them. So I think a lot might be a lot of work and research of getting this, but in the long run, it really, as a McKinney-Vento liaison, if you have a larger population you're working with, or you're trying to do multiple jobs in your district, taking the time to find out about these resources and where to send families will actually in the end save you time if you know who to tap into in your community. And it also helps families to know about who to turn to when they're no longer homeless. So you may be their go-to in the year that they were evicted and living in a hotel, and now they're in stable housing, and they don't need to come back to you as the liaison to get help because they know what agency to go to help them with the application, or where to go and access the food pantries because they had that link that you texted them. So I really feel like in the long run, it's a benefit to helping families know how to support their kids longer range, and to be able to even just know what's available in your community.
All right, Christy, we do have a number of questions for you. And also please take a quick peek at the chat. People love your creative ideas and had lots of good things to say about them. But want to get started with a few of the questions. So the first question is, where do you suggest to ask for laundry detergent, toilet paper, etc.?
So for ours, in our state, we have the Help for the Homeless Hygiene Drive is actually a statewide event. It is put on by the Family Radio Network, which is a Christian radio network. And so if there's anything already existing in your state that you can tap into and become a part of, that is actually the easiest way to get it for free. I know that if any of your school districts are still the recipient of some of the special like COVID funding that came down from the federal government to the state level to the school districts, some of those things are allowable under some of that special COVID funding. So like the American Rescue Plan funds. So if you check with your district to find out what's an allowable use of those funds, you can look at that. Or it might be tapping into the faith-based community, the churches that are around in your area, or just putting out an ask or doing a drive at school. There's often canned food drives that some of the schools will do. They'll have a student council group that wants to do it. You could do it in February and call it Loads of Love and ask for laundry detergent, ask for people to donate gift cards to the local laundromat. We have a number of laundromats in our area. Only one of them has like the little cards that you can give out as gift cards. So I think if you kind of know what you want and maybe tap into the groups that you know would be willing to donate it, you don't always even have to use school district money for it. I will tell you, a really cheap place to get it is at the dollar store. And they have like the smaller little ones that are real tiny for the unaccompanied homeless youth who might be just putting stuff in a backpack and needing to go place to place with it too.
Thank you. Similarly, along the same lines is the food that you were talking about earlier that you hand out in your free little pantry and also with the food bags. Is that food donated, or are you using certain funding sources for that?
That is actually one of our local food pantries, the same St. Joe's food pantry that does the food bags for the backpack program. We had called them up and just asked them like, hey, would it be possible for us to stock this in our free little pantry? Some of our schools and some of our other community places near our schools have things called blessing boxes. I don't know if that's a Wisconsin term or like a broader use of it, but sometimes the blessing boxes have non-perishable food. Some have hygiene supplies. So really that, yeah, I didn't use school district money to stock up my little cabinet. The cabinet was donated, and then we decided that it was a really cool place to put some food.
Another question for you, Christy, is there additional staff necessary to help with your program?
Do I want additional staff or do I have? No, it's me. I'm a little department of one. I do have some secretarial assistants part-time that they helps me out a little bit with some of my projects, but honestly, for the most part, it's mainly just me. I do have the benefit of being a full-time employee that is dedicated to our homeless and foster care support. I would say that if you're someone who is like sharing that role in your district, like you're the school social worker at 2 of your schools, plus you're doing the McKinney-Vento support, it might need to be a collaborative effort between maybe a group of you that's in a student service department role of someone's going to research the food resources in the community and someone else is going to try and talk to the churches about getting donations. Like sometimes you got to create your own village, even when you're the only one doing the work.
Excellent. And then one more question. Are you aware of any resources for phones or phone minutes for McKinney-Vento families?
Yes, we have one. The main one that I give parents information about is like the Lifeline program, which I do believe partners with a couple different cell phone agencies. I don't know if that's a Wisconsin state initiative versus a federal one though. So life, like LIFE and then Lifeline is what I just kind of Google searched it. And then I looked at our state resources. For that, I do think that purchasing cell phones was one of those other not normally allowable use of grant funds, but you could use that special American Rescue Plan COVID funding for, because I used it to get chargers for the vehicle for kids to charge their Chromebook when they weren't housed and needed to charge their school Chromebook. I was able to purchase that as like a school money funded way to support kids who are doing virtual school who weren't able to get their technology charged because they didn't have a house that they were living at consistently.
Thanks, Christy. And yeah, there are a lot of options for phones. And I will say there's a lot of really creative things being done in partnerships being developed with different phone companies to provide those phones and phone minutes. So we do have some of those highlighted on our website under our HCY spotlights. But just that is an excellent way to help families to stay connected to those resources. So thank you everyone so much for your questions. I want to just wrap us up with a few key takeaways from our time together today. So we know that families experiencing homelessness are more likely to face food insecurity. As I mentioned at the beginning, due to high mobility, due to lack of transportation, it can be really difficult for families to access food resources. And clearly we have seen that liaisons play a really important role in supporting that nutrition, connecting families with those EBT benefits and helping to support nutrition and food security during the summer months is really important. And it's an important role of the liaison. So knowing those resources and having those creative ideas, hopefully you've gotten some really excellent creative ideas from Christy today that you can go back and implement in your district. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. We'd love to connect with you if you're not already connected with us on social media of all types. And then also, if you're not connected with us, we'd love for you to join our mailing list to receive updated information from us. You will receive the slides as well as the recording will all be available after this. I did drop the link to the slides in the chat before, but you'll get a copy of those as well via email after our webinar is done today. So thank you very much. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. The three of us are happy to answer questions anytime we can. And thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate all of you and your time today. Thanks, Christi and Kelsey.